Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this week's episode of Dear Nero, the somewhat weekly Q&A series here on the channel where subscribers send in questions and I answer them. Typically, we do this series every single Wednesday. Today is Friday, and as a result, it's going to be a much longer episode than normal. What I'm going to go ahead and do is the questions I get for this series come from Twitter. Every week, I tweet out, submit your questions for this week's Dear Nero using hashtag Dear Nero. I go through and I pick some interesting ones, and then we make the video. Well, for this week's episode, I'm going to answer every single question that was submitted, and as a result, we're likely going to have a much longer episode than normal. Enjoy the Black Ops 4 gameplay here. Black Ops 4 is the absolute GOAT, in my opinion. Well, it's one of them. I'd say Black Ops 1 is my favorite, Black Ops 2 is my second favorite COD, then Black Ops 4, believe it or not, is my third favorite COD of all time, and I have lots of gameplay of it, so hopefully you guys all enjoy. But with that out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and jump into the first question coming in from Spartan Time, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think we're going to be getting a remastered COD in 2023 since we won't be getting a new COD? I don't think so, no. Right now, the current roadmap kind of suggests that we're going to be getting a mobile game of some sort in 2023, with Modern Warfare Roman numeral 2 or Modern Warfare 2022 being the main COD for the next foreseeable future, like the next few years. So, would I like a remaster of an old COD? Sure. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer remastered, like when is that ever going to happen? Black Ops 1 remastered, Black Ops 2 remastered would be fantastic. Maybe with some balance changes. I don't know. Like, you have to think back to those older CODs, right? And you think back to games like Modern Warfare 2, which obviously had tons of problems. And then you look at a game like Black Ops 2, which a lot of people consider to be one of the best, if not the best game of all time in the franchise. Do you guys remember how bad, like, C4 sandwiches were in that game, and like the MSMC and the M8 and stuff like that? Like, there were some really, really good weapons and some really cheesy tactics in that game. Toughness snipers. I mean, people like me complained about snipers in Black Ops Cold War because they had no flinch. I mean, the toughness perk in Black Ops 2 combined with a ballista or a DSR-50 had no flinch, and it was just as bad. So, would they rebalance some of it? I don't know. And I guess that's a good question for you guys in the comments. Like, if they were to remaster a beloved game like Black Ops 2, should they change some things or leave it exactly as was? I mean, for a lot of us, we want to see it exactly as it was. That's what we saw back during Modern Warfare Remastered, but we also saw with Modern Warfare Remastered that there were definitely some frustrating aspects to the old game. Like, Search and Destroy in COD 4 was like my favorite thing to play ever. Like, Search and Destroy COD 4 is like top notch, so much fun. But I'm also looking at it through rose-tinted glasses, going back to 2007 when the community wasn't as good as they are today, because what we saw with Modern Warfare Remastered was COD 4 S&D was still fun, yes, but it's a lot less fun with literally everybody using M16, MP5, and Frag times 3. Like, Frag times 3 itself, like, imagine a game of Search and Destroy where every single round you have to dodge 18 grenades. And that's, that gets a bit ridiculous, especially considering how good grenades were in that game. So, for me personally, I would have loved it if Frag times 3 was removed. I mean, initially, we got that initial taste of, COD 4 Remastered. We got to get a feel for what the game is like, and we got to take that that stroll down memory lane. But after playing that for a while, I'm like, yeah, I wish they would have rebalanced a little bit of this, because once the initial honeymoon phase was over, Frag times 3 ruined a lot of that game for me personally, and I think the same would be true of games like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops 2 should they remaster them with no changes. But do I think we're going to be seeing one in 2023? No, I don't, but you never know. COD has been doing so much crazy stuff over the past couple of years. The next question is coming in from Jack, who writes, Dear Nero, what is your favorite map from every Call of Duty? Well, I'm going to go ahead and do every Call of Duty since I started playing, which was Call of Duty 4. In COD 4, my favorite map was Backlot. In World at War, my favorite map was CeeLo. Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2 is hard, man. Like, these are all subject to change, but Modern Warfare 2, there were so many good ones, but I'd say right now, probably High Rise. I don't know, Terminal's really good, Afghan was really good, there's so many good maps in that game, but probably High Rise is my overall favorite. Black Ops 1, I'd say Firing Range. Keep in mind, that was the original Firing Range before we saw, Firing Range be remastered like a dozen times, but overall Firing Range is still like one of the best maps in the franchise, in my opinion, so of course I'm going to go with that. Modern Warfare 3, I'm going to say Arkaden, such a cool map, so it's actually really surprising to me it's never been remastered. Black Ops 2, I'd say Raid. There's a lot of good maps in Black Ops 2, but I'd say Raid overall for like all the game modes. I'd say it's probably my favorite. Ghost obviously was Warhawk. Advanced Warfare, I'd say Comeback, believe it or not. Comeback's one of those maps that I feel as though would be good even without advanced movement. It was just a good map in my opinion. Black Ops 3, Fringe. Definitely Fringe. Infinite Warfare, I did not like that game at all, but of the maps that I did play, Throwback was really cool because it was like an old-timey town almost within a super futuristic game. World War II, I'd say Ardennes Forest. London Docks being a very close second. Black Ops 4 is really tough. Black Ops 4 for me, like I said at the top of the video, is a top 3 COD of all time. But if you look at the original maps that were in the game, there's no, like, bangers in the game. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, insanely good maps that just launched with that game that were original to Black Ops 4. They're all very mid, in my opinions, but of all the original maps in Black Ops 4, I'd say probably Contraband. It was a launch map. I'd say it's probably my favorite of them, but honestly, Black Ops 4's maps were all kind of mid. It was the other gameplay aspects and the progression paths that made the game so interesting to me, along with zombies, as well as, of course, Blackout. When it comes to Modern Warfare 2019, Gunrunner, hands down my favorite. Black Ops Cold War, it's a DLC map, but The Pines. The Pines is a top 10 map of all time, in my opinion, because I freaking love the setting so much. The gameplay's okay, but the setting, man, a mall in the 80s, and you got the Galaxy Room, and you've got, it's so good. It's so good. I love The Pines. And then in Vanguard, believe it or not, I would say Numa Numa is my favorite map of the ones that are out so far. But yeah, there is every map since COD 4, or every favorite map, I suppose, since COD 4 for me personally, and definitely some controversial picks in there, I would imagine, but those are my picks right there. The next question is going to be coming in from iGinger, who writes, Dear Nero, not a question that pertains to COD, but what's your opinion on the new Pokemon games coming out? I haven't played them. I picked up the remaster of Diamond. I forget the name of it now, honestly, but the remaster of Pokemon Diamond. And it was fun for a little bit, but man, it's not that I don't like Pokemon anymore. I grew up with it. It was a big part of my life for a very long time. It's that the newer games are just not interesting to me because, sure, you get to see the new Pokemon, you get to mess around with them, you get to like level them up and evolve and see the new Pokemon, see the new regions and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, Pokemon is catered towards children. And normally there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem lies for me in the actual game because the game is so brain dead easy that it's not even interesting anymore. A while ago we started playing Pokemon Showdown. If you guys haven't heard about that, it's a competitive Pokemon battling website. You get to make your team, you get to pick the Eevees and the Ivies, and you get to pick all the moves and the held items and everything. It's like competitive Pokemon battling. And it's really interesting. Like, Pokemon as a competitive game actually has a lot of depth. Is it the most balanced thing in the world? No, but it's got a lot of depth, and it's actually pretty interesting, and I like that aspect of it. And then you go from that to playing, like, the actual retail games, and you can just stomp through the entire game. I beat Pokemon Yellow with a Pikachu. Like, just Pikachu. I beat even Bruno in the Elite Four with a bunch of rock types and stuff like that. Like, the games are not hard. They're not difficult. They're not challenging in any way. And I've always said it would be a lot more interesting. I think they would really, I don't know, I feel like they would really like rekindle Pokemon for a lot of people because they know that a lot of people grew up with Pokemon. They know that a lot of people are very nostalgic for them. I mean, look at I guess it's kind of dying now, but that recent surge of Pokemon cards and collecting them and how popular that's been. I feel like if they were to release their games with like a normal difficulty and then like an expert difficulty, with expert being the gym leaders having more Pokemon, having better AI, because there's a bunch of ROM hacks out there that are made by fans that the Pokemon have much better, the trainers have much better Pokemon, they have much better AI, they don't actually just pick stupid moves over and over and stuff. If they were to do that, I think that would actually be super interesting because the kids in the younger generation would still love the normal difficulty. And then if you're an older person that's been playing for a while and knows their way around Pokemon, then you'd have that expert difficulty, which would make it a bit more interesting and maybe have everything scale. So you can't just take your starter Pokemon, level it up to 100 and then one shot everything in the game, have a scaling system and have the AI have more Pokemon and more diverse moves and more coverage and make it more interesting. I think that would be super cool, but they've never done that for some reason. So I'm not overly interested in the new games. I think Quaxley looks adorable, but other than that, I'm just not super into it. Just really not. I think playing ROM hacks of like Gen 1 stuff is a lot more interesting because it's actually more challenging. The next question is going to be coming in from Kareem, who writes, Dear Nero, what will make you more excited for Modern Warfare 2022, knowing it's going to follow its predecessor, Modern Warfare 2019? I personally love the game. For me, it's making the game not at all like Modern Warfare 2019, not having that safe space map design, having a slower time to kill so that gunfights are actually a thing, and that's the main core of it. Having fun maps to play on that are not literally designed, like I've shown the clip so many times, I won't do it again here, but these maps were literally designed for new players to be able to hide in, and have a normal working mini-map, get rid of the stupid compass, have a slower time to kill, more akin to a game, Black Ops 4, it's a great time to kill, in my opinion. I don't think they'll ever go back to that, but I think that's a great time to kill. But something similar to that, maybe go back to a game like World War II, or, you know, it just depends on the game. Everyone's like, oh, Black Ops 1 actually has super fast time to kill. Well, the game didn't feel like it had fast time to kill because the hit detection was so bad. But basically, I want a game where gunfights are actually a thing, and it's not just who's sitting in a window is going to win the gunfight, you know. That's the big thing, the core gameplay loop for me. If we have a working minimap, old school, dare I say, boring maps. 3-lane maps are honestly like boring. I think CZ in my stream, he pointed out one day that the reason why Black Ops 4 is so good, but the maps are so not memorable, is because they're boring. And it's because of the setting. They could have made the themes a lot more interesting. For example, I think Gridlock is a great map in Black Ops 4, but I think the setting is really boring and bland. If they would have had more interesting settings, I think it would have been better. But in general, most maps in Black Ops 4 are a simple 3-lane design, and they're really balanced. And I think as a result, the gameplay was super fun, but the maps themselves weren't super memorable because the maps themselves just didn't have a lot of pizzazz to them, I suppose. Like, boring maps actually makes for a better game in terms of like layout and stuff like that. So I'd like to see them go back to a normal 3-lane style system with every single map pretty much, then go crazy with the setting and the theme and make it more interesting. And then on top of that, I would like to see the minimap work, and I would like a slower time to kill with more weapon variety. And also, I think they should get rid of the pick, they should go back to pick 10. I think they should get rid of the attachment system that they currently have. I could probably do a whole video on this, but the attachment system that we have in games like Black Ops Cold War and Vanguard and stuff, Modern Warfare is the one that started it. It's bad. It's a bad system. People think it's fun to unlock all these different attachments. So you're leveling up your gun, you're unlocking things, it's progression. Dude, like 5 of those attachments are good. Like, how many foregrips do you need for your assault rifle? Just one. You pick the best one, then the rest of them are pointless. When it comes to optical sights, sure, there's going to be some variety there. You might want a red dot, you might want an ACOG, you may want no sight. That's fine. Different optical attachments is cool, but how many extended mags do you need? There's one good one. How many stocks do you need? There's one good one. That's it. The rest of them are pointless. And it's not fun leveling up your gun and go, oh, my stock is slightly less shitty. I can't wait to get the actually good one. It's just mindless grinding, and it makes balancing really difficult, and it just takes forever to level up your guns and actually unlock challenges for camos, and it's a pain in the ass. So I would like to see that get rid of as well. It's just not very fun in my personal opinion. I'm going into Modern Warfare 2022 hoping that it's going to be good, but we'll have to wait and see how it's actually going to play out. The next question is going to be coming in from Victor, who writes, Dear Nero, how is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands also been a fan of yours since the Chemstrike series? That's a throwback right there. All the way back to Call of Duty Ghosts. How's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? I like it a lot. I would say overall it's the second best Borderlands game in the franchise. If I had to rate the Borderlands games, I would say Borderlands 2 is number 1, Wonderlands is number 2, I'd put the original Borderlands at number 3, I would put Borderlands 3 at number 4, and then I'd put the pre-sequel at number 5, in terms of like main entry titles, because the pre-sequel was really bad. It just wasn't very good. And Wonderlands is good. The Endgame needs some work. I'll probably be doing a video on this on my second channel. People say I don't promote my other stuff enough, so youtube.com/Nero's Let's Plays, or type in NerosCinema 2. Either or, it'll pop up. There's a link to it in the description of every one of my videos. I have a whole second channel where I upload just random stuff pretty much, but lately it's been more Wonderland stuff because I've done a lot of Borderlands stuff over the years. I've done like 1,500 videos on that channel, for crying out loud. And I'll be doing a full review of the game soon on that channel. Hope my mic sounds better today. I'm noticing it's being a bit louder than normal, but we'll see how it plays out in the video. But I really enjoy Wonderlands. The endgame definitely needs work, but the spell system is so much better than grenades. It's infinitely better. It's so much fun. The character customization is the best we've ever had in the series. The classes and the customization of the classes, and being able to take your main class, like I'm a Graveborn, and then have my secondary class be a spell shot, or switch that to a Stabomancer, make it a anything. Having that customization there and trying out different kinds of builds and building around different weapons you get, like in terms of it being a fun looter shooter, it's incredible. The story is really interesting and very fun. It doesn't have a big impact on the overall lore of the Borderlands universe because it's just an imaginary game made up by Tiny Tina, but it's very good. It is definitely very good, and I know I'm going to sound like a sellout right now, but if you do decide to pick up on PC on the Epic Games Launcher using code NerosCinema, throws a few bucks my way, which is always pretty nice. But yeah, the game actually is genuinely good, and I actually really enjoy it. I stream it quite a lot on my Twitch, so twitch.tv/NerosCinema, youtube.com/Neros Let's Plays. There you go. There's my promotion. The next question here is going to be coming in from Kieran, who writes, Dear Nero, would you have preferred a World at War remake over Vanguard? No. No, I wouldn't have. And I know people are like, what? No, there's no way. World at War has a very... It's got a soft spot in my heart, I guess is the expression. I really love that game. I do. I don't think it'd be very good these days. I don't think it'd be good at all. I think World at War... I mean, the game had 4 SMGs. The game had 2 shotguns. The game had four machine guns. I'm trying to remember. You had the Bren, you had the Bar, what was called the Type 99. The Type 99, the Bar, the DP, the MG, and the Browning. There was 5 light machine guns. And when it comes to assault rifles, there was 1 full auto one in the form of the STG. The other ones were pretty good for being semi-automatic, but they were all just semi-automatic. And the maps were interesting, but there were tanks. The perks were really bad. I made a top 10 worst perks in COD history video, and people say I should have renamed it the top 10 worst perks in World at War, because like 6 or 7 of them were from World at War. They were really bad. There's only a couple good perks in the actual game. They had so many perks like to fill the game out, and they would lay the groundwork for later perks that would come out for sure. But in general, the perks were really bad in that game as well. And if they were to remake the game, then we would find ourselves in a situation where we would realize that World at War was not that great. It really wasn't. And we talked about like remastering and what they would change. Would World at War still be World at War if they added 4 more submachine guns to it and just rebalanced the entire game? I mean, the MP40 would have just ruined everything. The MP40 with stopping power does 78 damage a bullet up close, which is absurd. Then again, any damage over 50 is pointless if it's still going to be a 2-shot kill. But regardless, the MP40 would have been ridiculous. And if they added more weapons to the game, then it wouldn't have felt like World at War anymore, because we'd have like all these different weapons. It would have been kind of nuts. But then again, I don't know. It wouldn't have felt like World at War, that's for sure. But World at War with a nerfed MP40, and then adding in things like the Sten and other SMGs, adding in a couple of the full auto rifles, maybe a couple new shotguns, stuff like that, would have been better. Maybe, because I think it would have been interesting, actually, now I'm thinking about it, having all those extra guns, because the maps themselves were very fun. I mean, maps like CeeLo and Outskirts and Macon and Castle and Dome, and obviously Castle and Dome came back for Vanguard, but I think it'd be cool to see all that. I do. So... but I'd like to see a remaster like that in the future. Now that I'm thinking about it, that could potentially be very good, but the problem is it wouldn't be a proper remaster. It'd be like World at War reimagined, essentially. And would that game have been better than Vanguard? Yes. Yes, hands down. So, would I like to see a reimagining of World at War over what we got with Vanguard? I suppose so, because we've seen how Vanguard played out. Like, on paper, you should want Vanguard more. It's a new COD. They have all the range, do whatever they want. It should have been fantastic, but it wasn't. And now we're left with the game that we have right now. And on paper, in theory, that reimagined World at War sounds more fun to me, in my opinion. So I've just argued against myself, and I've changed my own opinion mid-sentence. So there you guys go. The next question is going to be coming in from Breenom, who writes, Dear Nero, how did you meet your girlfriend? So Courtney and I have been together almost 2 years now. We knew of each other in high school, but we didn't really run in the same circles. We were just kind of like aware of each other. But she was friends with my cousin, and my cousin said, you should talk to this girl because I think you two would be a good fit. And so I had her on Facebook way back when, and I write her, and she was not very receptive at first. I'm just some random guy, just like, hey, how's it going? Trying to meet up, trying to talk or hang out or do whatever. And eventually she caved. We got Chinese together. And we went, and she's a big fan of Harry Potter. We were supposed to watch like the first Harry Potter. I've never seen any of them. And instead of watching Harry Potter, we just kind of sat there and just like chatted the entire day away. And then from there, we just started hanging out a lot more. And then eventually we made it official and we started dating, and we've been together for 2 years now. So not the craziest story in the world, but that's how it went down. And she's fantastic, and I love her. The next question is coming in from Dylan, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think the new engine is the problem with COD nowadays? Everyone praises it and says it's good. But when you think about it, since it came in Modern Warfare 2019, all games have included the Modern Warfare 2019 engine, and they've all been awful. So it makes me think that's maybe the engine that's the problem. Dude, I don't know. I don't know how game development works. I don't think the engine necessarily is the problem, because in terms of core gameplay, Black Ops Cold War is very similar, has like the same engine and all that. But Black Ops Cold War is so much better than a game like Modern Warfare 2019. Hell, I'd say Vanguard, from a gameplay perspective, is better than Modern Warfare 2019. The problem with Vanguard lies with the lack of progression, lack of interesting things to do, lack of balance updates, and just bad balance in general. It's not the engine. The game runs fine, except when there's too much fire. I'm having memories back to Winter Shipment, where if you had too much fire on the ground, too many Molotovs, too many thermites, and stuff like that the game would crash because the game couldn't handle that much fire. But I don't think it's the engine. I think it's just bad balancing and a bad vision coming from developers that don't really care too much about the franchise, and those that do have their good ideas squandered by people that are not focused on making the game good, but rather making it more monetizable. I think that's most of the problem. The next question is going to be coming in from Wolf, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think COD will be going in a better direction during and after Modern Warfare 2022 when Microsoft buys out Activision? Hopefully. Do I think? No idea, dude. None of us have any idea what's going to possibly happen. Do I think it could be better? Yes, for sure. I definitely think Microsoft has been making a lot of really good and positive moves over the course of the past couple of years, and if they were to kind of like add that to COD, that'd be fantastic. But will it happen? I don't know. Will it feel like the old days? Probably not, but it's possible that we might have a new golden era of COD when Microsoft takes over. For me personally, I think you go back to the old days, right? You go like COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 and stuff like that. That was like a golden era of COD. It was like when COD first started blowing up, and then we had like the advanced movement era, which was like just terrible. No one liked it. I mean, some people did. Black Ops 3 was actually pretty fun, but advanced movement was pretty mid. Let's all at least agree on that. And then after that, we had Modern Warfare Remastered, COD World War 2, and Black Ops 4, which I know for a lot of people may not be the best ever, but for me, those games were all awesome. A remake of the game that got me into the COD franchise, a new World War II shooter for the first time in like 10 years that was actually good, especially after the Division's overhaul. And then Black Ops 4, again, top 3 COD for me. And so that was like a new golden era for me. And then we had Modern Warfare. And that was just awful. And then Black Ops Cold War could have been good, but there were some problems. And then Vanguard... So we were peaks and valleys, guys, peaks and valleys. And I'm hoping that we're at the end of our little valley here and we're going back up to a peak now that Microsoft is going to be taking over. So we'll have to wait and see how things are going to play out. The next question is going to be coming in from Stepsis. His name is Stepsis and his @ is Supply Drop. No idea. Dear Nero, do you sniff your hand after you wipe? No, what the fuck is wrong with you? The next question is going to be coming in from Orion, who writes, Dear Nero, at this point, with how far down the hole Activision is, Sledgehammer Games is not on anyone's good side with making games, so I have to ask, should they be released from making Call of Duty games, and should they be replaced, or should it just be Infinity Ward and Treyarch? I talked about this before, but Orion, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that Sledgehammer Games deserves a second chance. I think that Advanced Warfare was the very first advanced movement game. Therefore, they could just throw anything at the wall and see what stuck, and there was no real foundation. It was just, it was a big risk. It was a huge risk, and believe it or not, I think Advanced Warfare was pretty solid in terms of gunplay. I think the maps were good, the customizable kill streaks were really cool, and some of the things you could do with the weapons was interesting as well. Just, it had the worst movement. Like, the exosuit movement was so much worse than what we saw in Black Ops 3 or Infinite Warfare, but that's partly due to the fact that it was the first advanced movement game. It was the first iteration. Then, of course, they took that iteration and they revised it and they made it better with Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. But there were definitely some good redeeming aspects to a game like Advanced Warfare. And then Call of Duty World War 2, they had lots of good ideas at launch, but it didn't really work out. They kind of argued with us about the bar not being overpowered. They argued about Domination 50 and some other balancing issues. Eventually, they fixed all that. And in my opinion, COD World War 2 is probably a top 5 COD. It was super fun for me personally. The headquarters, for crying out loud, such a good idea. Such an awesome idea. So Sledgehammer Games has proven they can do some cool things. Vanguard is very mid for me. Vanguard is a game that I don't... I hate being negative. Like, what does Vanguard do better than any other COD? I'm honestly trying to think. No, your video's not paused. I'm just literally still saying you're thinking. I can't think of anything. I can't think of a single thing that Vanguard does better than any other COD. Vanguard seems like, every now and then you'll see like a video from like a YouTuber or a TV episode, for example, where like, you have the show, you watch the show, it's an episodic series and you're watching it and the episode goes through and you're like, huh, That wasn't a very good episode. I mean, it was fine. It continued the story, I guess. Like it was serviceable. It just wasn't very good. It's not gonna be a classic. It's kind of like a filler episode, right? Vanguard feels like a filler game. This is like not a game that we're gonna remember for any good reasons, I don't think. It's the game that should have been, but the game that wasn't, in my own personal opinion. But they have proven in the past with Advanced Warfare and Call of Duty World War II that they can do a lot of good things, and they have a lot of good ideas there at the studio. So I think they should be given another chance for sure, especially when they actually have time to like release their game and like fully like finish it before they release it. I think that'd be pretty good. The next question here is gonna be coming in from Alfire YouTube, who writes, "Dear Nero, do you think Call of Duty keeps getting worse? Should everyone just go back to the old CODs like Black Ops 2, COD 4, and Modern Warfare 2? Obviously, they will still have hackers and bugs, but hopefully it will motivate Activision to fix those things." So Alfire, what you're thinking of here is like a strike almost. Will never happen. Will never happen. Will never work. Get that out of your mind right now. I'm not saying this just to you. I'm saying it to everyone because I get questions like this all the time. We should do a revolt. We should all agree not to buy the new game. We should all go back to the old games. We should all do this, that, and the other thing. You know how hard it is to mobilize like 50 million people? It's freaking hard. And they tried doing those revival days on games like Modern Warfare 2. All it did was bring back hackers, and not that many people actually played to begin with. I don't know. It's hard. You can't get this community to do anything like that. Sure, people can go back and play the old games, but it's not even all that interesting because we've been there. We've seen it. We've done it. There's nothing stopping me right now from booting up Black Ops 2 besides the fact that it's hacked all the hell and my account gets reset every time I sign in. You know, I can go back and play it whenever I want. Same with COD 4, same with Modern Warfare 2. And occasionally I do go back and play those older games. But it's not the same. The population is tiny. You can only play Team Deathmatch. You're playing on horrible connection because there's like 200 total people on the entirety of the Xbox 360 servers playing that game. And so I'm playing with people from Zimbabwe on a 1-bar connection here, running around trying to just level up a gun. It's not fun. It's not interesting to go back and like actually have a meaningful gaming session. You can go back for nostalgia's sake, sure, but you're not going to go back and unlock fall camo, for example. You're not going to go get your 1000 AC 130 kills to unlock the spinning COD 410 prestige icon. It's not going to happen. There just aren't enough people playing, you know, and you can try and get people to go back, but it's not going to work. It's never worked. People have tried this time and time again. It's not a thing. People go back, they realize, yep, this game was as fun as I remember, but I've been here, I've done this, I've seen it. You know, the same way I've seen every single episode of like King of the Hill, for example. It's my favorite TV show. It's like my comfort show. I can turn it on before bed, fall right asleep like a baby. I've seen every episode like 15 times. Sure, I love old King of the Hill, and I will always go back and watch it, and it's great. But I would much rather have new episodes come out, which they're going to be doing that, by the way. I'm very stoked about that. I'd rather see like new episodes as compared to watching season 1 over and over and over and over again. The same is true of movies, like Friday the 13th. They're still fighting that stupid lawsuit there. I've seen every Friday the 13th many, many times. I have it like memorized at this point. Yes, I love those movies. They always have a fond place in my heart. I literally have a Friday the 13th tattoo, but I want a new one. I would love to see a new movie and make it awesome. I want like more goodness, essentially, right? The reason why we love like those old CODs is because they were fantastic. Don't you want a new game like that? Don't you want a new COD that's new, has new guns, new maps, new systems, new interesting aspects to it that you can fall in love with, play for years and years and years, and then look back nostalgically on the same way you do for those older CODs? That's what we want. And going back and playing hacked up Black Ops 2 is not going to get us there. So, sure, go back and play them if you want, but it's never going to be the same. You can never go home, I suppose. It's never going to feel the same as, you know, what it did back in 2010, for example. The next question is going to be coming in from John Oaktree, who writes, "Dear Nero, why don't people play Modern Warfare Remastered anymore? And do you think that this would happen to Modern Warfare 2 Remastered if they added multiplayer?" So that kind of ties into the previous question. Why don't people play MWR anymore? We've been there. We've done that. I think it ties into the previous question pretty well, actually. We've been there. We've done that. We've seen all the things. We've done all the things. Yes, we can go back and play, and yes, it's interesting, but the population's not as big. It's a game that came out, wow, Modern Warfare Remastered was 6 years ago. Came out 6 years ago, and it's a game it solved content. If you guys ever heard that expression, it's solved content. We know the best guns, we know the best strats, we know the best setups, we know everything. The game has been figured out. You can still play it and have fun with it, sure, but then you have to deal with the imbalances of things like the M16, things like Frag Times 3, things like only being able to play Team Deathmatch because the player base is so small. Back when we used to stream COD a lot. Lately we stream whatever, but we used to stream lots of COD, and we would go try to play games like World War II, for example. It was so much fun. You run the oh my goodness, what is it called? I'm not doing a second take on this video. I'm gonna sit here and think of it. Wanderlust. It's called Wanderlust. It was a basic training in Call of Duty World War II where you would run it. It was essentially a perk, and every time you spawned in, you'd have a random gun in your hand with random attachments. And we would do what is called Wanderlust Search and Destroy, where we'd run the Mountain Division, which would give us like dead silence, like silent footsteps, and then we'd have Wanderlust as our basic training or our perk. So we would just have a random weapon. Sometimes it was like a pistol with like 80 attachments. Sometimes it was a good rifle. Sometimes it was a rocket launcher. You never knew. And the only time you were allowed to swap weapons, because every time you swapped your weapon, it would give you a different random gun or a different, random weapon with random attachments, was only after you got a kill. And that was so much fun. Like, oh boy, this round I'm starting off with a Tommy gun with a silencer and a red dot. That's easy. And then you get your first kill, you swap weapons, you're like, oh no, now I have a sniper rifle with a red dot sight and whatever the hell. Then you hopefully get a kill with that, and you're like, oh no, now I have a rocket launcher. It's like playing gun game almost, but in Search and Destroy. So much fun. So much freaking fun. Absolutely love it. Can't do it anymore. There's no one playing Search and Destroy on Call of Duty World War II on the Xbox servers. Doesn't exist. Can't play it. And the same is true of Modern Warfare Remastered. The very few people that still play that game. If you play Search, you're going to play the same 2 or 3 people every single night, and they're all running Frag Times 3. And so if you want to play it all, you have to play Team Deathmatch. It's not that enjoyable. It gets frustrating. Will the same happen to Modern Warfare 2? Yes. The same is going to happen for every COD game because they keep releasing new ones. If they were to release a game and say, this is going to be the only COD for the next 5 years, and we're going to update it for 5 straight years, then people will likely fall in love with it, and they'll play it and grind it and do everything in it. Similar to a game like World of Warcraft or Overwatch, where people have been still playing it for years and years and years. But COD's an annual game, or at least a semi-annual game now. And eventually, they're going to stop updating it. And when they stop updating it, and when the game becomes solved content, it stops being as interesting. And the player base moves on to what's new, what's interesting. People still go back for nostalgia's sake, but they're never going to stay on the older game when there's newer stuff out there. That's just the reality of it. We're always going to try and play the new thing because we've experienced the old thing to death. So the only way to avoid that is to have that old thing continue to be updated, but they don't update it anymore. So Modern Warfare Remastered is dead pretty much, yes. You can still play, you can still find lobbies, but they're very few and far between. And would the same happen to like a proper multiplayer remaster of Modern Warfare 2? Yes. That will definitely happen eventually. It'll probably take longer than the original Modern Warfare Remastered, but yes, it will happen eventually. The next question coming in from Major Spider-Man fan who writes, Dear Nero, are you excited for Modern Warfare 2, as in Modern Warfare 2022? Cautiously optimistic, I would say, is my mindset going into it. The next question is going to be coming in from Hamas, who writes, Dear Nero, how long do you think we'll have to wait to get a Black Ops 3 remastered? Not as long as you'd think, I would say. In terms of candidates for remasters, right now it seems like Modern Warfare, like the original Modern Warfare 2 being remastered, that seems like the least likely one, despite the fact that it's pretty much done. Just because we have like Modern Warfare 2019, then this new Modern Warfare 2, I just don't see them releasing a remake of the old Modern Warfare 2 like so soon after releasing a new Modern Warfare 2. It just really doesn't make any sense. A game like Black Ops 1 could be interesting. A game like Black Ops 2 I think is more likely, but then a game like Black Ops 3 that had the advanced movement, that might be a game that they actually decide to remaster because it's so much different than the rest of the games out there. And it was definitely considered by most people, at least to me, it seems anyway, that it was the most beloved advanced movement game. It had a lot of good aspects to it, aside from the supply drop system. So I think that would actually be, in terms of like games that are likely to be remastered in the COD franchise, that's probably top 3. I'd say the most likely games that we're going to see like a multiplayer remaster would be like Black Ops 2 being the number one. Maybe Black Ops 1 being number 2, and then maybe Black Ops 3 being the third. Because right now, Modern Warfare 2 does not seem like it's going to get remastered, and no one seems to be talking about Modern Warfare 3 remastered. So, yeah, I'd say the chances are pretty decent, but we're probably going to wait a very long time. Eventually, they will all be remastered, I'm sure. They're going to make too much money off that nostalgia, but I think we're going to have to wait quite a bit for it. The next question is coming in from Miami Mark. Speaking of nostalgia, who writes, Dear Nero, hope everything is going well. It's actually going very well. People always ask and wonder about that. Over like 200 days, something like that, sober now, and things have been going great. Is it true that you can't get a new PC copy of World at War anymore? I don't know for a fact, but I heard that from Earthbound. So apparently with how they like set up World at War in the PC, there was only a certain number of like game keys that could be purchased, and they ran out of them. And I guess if you just try to buy the game now, you can't actually load it because there's no more keys that exist for it. I've heard that. I don't know if it's true. If anyone knows in the comments, please let us know, because that's funny and interesting. And definitely something that should be fixed as well, because you shouldn't be able to buy a game that doesn't work. But the next question is going to be coming in from AC130 Above, who writes, Dear Nero, what is a feature that was inconsequential to overall gameplay but added value to your overall COD experience that was taken out and you wish was put back in? There's so many. Just to reread that one more time, it's a good question. What is the feature that was inconsequential to overall gameplay but added value to your overall COD experience? Headquarters. 100%. The first thing that comes to my mind when I read that is the headquarters. Having a social space, which it seems like nowadays I was literally just there to get people to want to buy supply drops, but having a social space to hang out in, run around with your character in third person, have a lobby leaderboard, have the 1v1 pit, have a firing range to go properly test all your weapons and stuff like that, and have a place to just hang out and intentional, I guess you call them glitches or Easter eggs, I guess, like getting on top of the headquarters and finding the sledgehammer that's up there and the footballs and the score streak training area. And there's the thing where you could like make crazy emblems and paint jobs for your guns and then get social score based on how many people downloaded them. Like, what a cool feature. What an awesome idea. How did that not happen ever again? The very fact that it never happened again, despite the fact that all that groundwork was laid out by Sledgehammer, goes to show that it was probably just there as a front for you to watch other people open their supply drops and be more enticed to maybe purchase some yourself. I don't know. I can't think of another reason. But I'd love to hear down there in the comments, what was another like inconsequential feature in COD that didn't affect overall gameplay or anything, but it was a feature in the game that you really enjoyed that added value to your experience and it was taken out for some reason. Let us know about that down there in the comments, should you make it this far into the video. The next question is going to be coming in from Blazing Blue Box, who writes, Dear Nero, what was your favorite time to make content on YouTube and why? I've talked about this before, but Modern Warfare Remastered, I'd say. And it's not because Modern Warfare Remastered was necessarily the best game ever, but it's the first COD game I ever played. Well, COD 4 was, technically, right? But it's a remake of the first COD game I ever played. And all this random, pointless knowledge I had from 10 years ago was relevant again. And that was so fun. I'm like, you guys want to see how if you try using a knife with a silencer on your G3, how it doesn't work? Check this out. And you want to hear about how the M40A3 with an ACOG sight gives you 5 extra damage, which makes it so you can one-shot people in the toe with stopping power? And like all these random bits of knowledge, all the map knowledge, all the weapon knowledge, everything, right? It was all relevant again, and I didn't have to think it all that whole year because I already knew everything there was to know about the game, and it was fun also to take that trip down memory lane. So I would say overall, my favorite time to make content on YouTube was during Modern Warfare Remastered. The next question is coming in from D Foley's, who's on my stream all the time. He's got a lot of questions right here. Sorry for touching my mic right there, by the way. But he writes, Dear Nero, would you rather have $1 million or 1 million active subscribers? $1 million for sure. 1 million active subscribers, you could argue you can make a lot more money long term that way, but 1 million subs and like active subs just seems terrifying. I'd rather have the 1 million be financially secure for like ever and then continue to make the videos I want to make here on YouTube and not worry about having 1 million people to either make happy or piss off. So having the money straight up would just make it so I have virtually no stress in my life, and then I would just be free to just do all the kinds of videos I want to do and just enjoy the community that I have, as compared to trying to have 1 million people to pay attention. 1 million people's a lot. That's like terrifying to me, and I just feel like I would not do well with that many subs. Active subs, that is. There's a big difference. He actually has more questions here added. He has 4 total questions in his question. So the next one, would you rather have me be a professional athlete or a professional esports player? I guess esports player, so you don't have to travel around the world. Would you rather have me as a brother or Zach? I would say Tate overall over Zach. Zach has to fly across the world all the time for for his job. Like, literally, he's in Germany half the time. I can't play games as much, whereas Tate can. And then, would you rather have a personal chef or a personal maid? Chef, 100%. I don't enjoy cooking. Don't find it fun whatsoever. I don't need a maid. My house isn't that big. My house is pretty tiny, actually. I can take care of my house just fine. But a personal chef, I'm like, hey, Jeeves, food. And have it just appear, that'd be fantastic. So definitely go personal chef over personal maid. The next question is going to be coming in from Rameshara, who writes, Dear Nero, have you ever played Rainbow Six Siege? And if so, did you enjoy it? And would you ever consider making videos about it? Never played it. Never really had much of an interest. I used to watch streams of it, but I just never, didn't look that interesting to me overall. Next question is coming in from Splitgate Shop, who writes, Dear Nero, are you excited for Nintendo Switch Sports? It's a sequel to Wii Sports from back in the day, and you can play online with people from around the world. No, I never had a Wii. I have a Switch now, but I never had a Wii. Therefore, I never played Wii Sports, and therefore, I just don't have any expectation or interest in Nintendo Switch Sports. Will other people like it? Sure, hopefully they do. But this is literally the first time I'm hearing of it. So, am I excited for it? No, I didn't even know it existed. The next question is coming in from Balake, who writes, Dear Nero, what are your favorite memories from old Call of Duty games? God, that's hard. I'd say overall, just where I was in life way back when, right? I think I talked about this in like a really old video, but part of the fun of games like COD 4, World at War, Modern Warfare 2 was I was in high school. I was like 15, 16 when COD 4 came out. And, therefore 1 year older for World at War, 1 year older for Modern Warfare 2. I was like this carefree kid living at home. Didn't have any responsibilities in life or anything. I was just playing video games all night with my buds. And Call of Duty was also like new and like blowing up for the first time back then. And there was so much to learn, and it was just so interesting, and it was fantastic. And that's just my favorite memory in general, is like being new to the franchise, having like, I don't know, it sounds so jaded, but like, if I get 50 kills in a game of Dom, I'm not excited anymore. Like back in the day, I would have been for sure. Like, holy hell, 50 kills. Like, you always want to show off in front of your friends. You want to feel good, getting better at the game and doing well and stuff like that. I've done that thousands of times now. It's not as interesting to me anymore to be like, oh wow, I did really good in this one particular match. It's enjoyable, sure. But it's not like, it's not that same feeling as when you first start like noticing yourself get better at games and stuff like that. Like when you're like back in high school, for example, you're 15, 16. So, I'd say that's my favorite memory was, learning COD, trying to get better at COD, having COD being a cultural phenomenon back then, which it's not really like that much anymore, and being a carefree kid in life, not having to worry about anything, just playing games, just having fun. Essentially, that's all it was. The next question here is coming in from the Big Gamer 109, who writes, Dear Nero, have you ever given the game Rainbow Six Siege a try? No. The main reason why I quit playing COD is because it's actually rewarding players who play the game a lot. Again, I've never played the game. I don't really have much interest. This is why I normally just pick like one of those questions if they're like a repeating question like that. But I promised I would every single question that was submitted for this week's Dear Nero, I'm doing in this episode. So even if it's a repeat question. The next question is coming in from Nocturnal, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think from a strictly multiplayer standpoint that the quote-unquote Warzone era or skill-based matchmaking era of COD, being Modern Warfare 2019, Black Ops Cold War, and Vanguard, is the worst era in franchise history, or does the advanced movement era still take the cake for you? Oh, that's tough. What's worse? Like Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Vanguard, or Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Advanced Warfare? I'd say this is worse. Because one of those games, Infinite Warfare, you had an alternative with COD 4 Remastered. Black Ops 3 was actually pretty damn good. And Advanced Warfare, despite the movement kind of sucking, I mean, supply drops were new at the time. Like, we didn't realize how shitty they were at the time. So I'd say Advanced Movement was actually better, than the era that we're currently in, which is bad games released with not a lot of content by developers that seemingly don't care, and updates just not happening. So I'd say the current era, the war in the developers seemingly caring much more about Warzone and Warzone content as compared to multiplayer. I'd say the era we're in now is probably the worst era in franchise history. I'm struggling to think of a different era that would have been worse. The next question is coming in from Kenny Boy Pugless, Pugalis? I think it's his name, but I don't know how to say it. He writes, Dear Nero, if you can pick one game universe and live in it, what would it be, and why not Attack on Titan? So, I've never seen Attack on Titan. The only quote-unquote anime I've ever watched was like the Pokemon TV show way back when. Maybe the Yu-Gi-Oh show, if that counts. Not 100% sure. Not a weeb. But what game universe? One game universe I could live in. What would it be and why? God, it's so hard because the ones I like, I would not last very long. The Warcraft universe is so cool to me. But a universe with like magic and dragons and demons, and I'd probably just die very quickly unless I like hid inside a town. Borderlands, I love the Borderlands franchise, but in reality, in most of the games, they just live in like a desert, and it's actually like not a good place to live. Like if you actually think like realistically about living in the Borderlands universe, it wouldn't be that good. And then I think of Fallout. I love Fallout. It's my favorite, one of my favorite game franchises. It's so cool. I love the universe. I love the lore. I love everything about it. But living in a world with rad scorpions jumping out of the ground that are like 8 feet tall, that sounds bad. Mole rats that can jump out of the ground, that sounds awful. Deathclaw, giant dinosaur gecko things, that sounds really shitty. Everything being irradiated, I don't know how people even live in that universe, technically, if your body's not adapted for that. So, assuming I don't die from radiation poisoning just from like eating and drinking and stuff, then I would pick Fallout. I would live in the Fallout universe, I think. But it's not a great universe to live in. If you want to pick a good universe, find a game where everyone's happy and fun, and just pick like Animal Crossing or something like that, where you just live in pure comfort for all eternity. The next question is going to be coming in from Hamad, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think Sledgehammer should have another chance with the 2-year rotation, or should it be a support studio? Talked about it before, but yeah, Sledgehammer Games should have another chance at a full game that is all them, all their idea, and let them actually have time to finish it and then release it and have it be good. The next question is coming in from Fernando Garcia, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think that the reason Sledgehammer Call of Duty games come out bad is because they've been wanting to make Advanced Warfare 2, but Activision is saying no? No, there's no way an entire game studio that's owned by Activision is protesting the fact that they want to make another Kevin Spacey Advanced Movement game, and Big Daddy Activision said no, so therefore they're making their games bad. I don't think that's true. Plus, I think World War II was a good game. So, the next question is coming in from Jay Ruffles, who writes, Dear Nero, have you had any more tattoo designs in your mind, or are you happy with what you got? I got loads, but want loads more. Yes, I do want more tattoos for sure. I always said if I hit Legend in Hearthstone, I would get a Hearthstone tattoo, a small minimalistic one, not like a big gaudy one, but I hit Legend in Hearthstone last season for the first time ever. Super stoked about that. Video about it on my second channel if you guys want to check it out. Link in the description. I'll eventually get that. But other than that, I don't have a bazillion ideas that I want to get, but I'm definitely going to get more tattoos. I think I'm going to get like a dedicated sleeve on my left arm. Because my right arm's all just random stuff, which I like, that idea. But my left arm, I think I'm going to do more dedicated to have it be more Americana style. So the next question is going to be coming in from Lucas, who writes, Dear Nero, will there ever be a boy born that can swim faster than a shark? What? Probably not. What? Next question is coming in from Jesus Christ, or For Fox's Sake, is his Twitter handle, who writes, Dear Nero, love when you have your brother as a guest, but is there any possible way we could get Blame Truth on one week? That would be sick. I'm going to ask this every week, P.S. Sure, if Blame Truth wants to do a Dear Nero with me, I'd be all for that. That could be very fun. Next question is coming in from Benjam, who writes, Dear Nero, what is your go-to meal to eat after working a long, hard day? So my days involve video games and YouTube. It's not that hard at the end of the day, but I eat lots of Sheets. It's like a gas station restaurant thing here in like Pennsylvania and maybe the surrounding areas. I get like their burrito bowls and stuff a lot because they're easy to warm up and I don't have to cook them. I don't like cooking, so I get takeout quite a bit. I try to make it mildly healthy, so I get like a burrito bowl with like grilled chicken and rice and stuff like that. So that's kind of my go-to. Next question is coming in from Z Destroyer. That's a throwback right there. Who writes, Dear Nero, what is your honest review of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? I feel like it's fun, but the end game falls short, and a big whiff on not having any invincible in the game. It's like I talked about earlier on in the video. Wonderlands is very good, but Endgame definitely falls short because the raid bosses are not actual raid bosses. They're very easy to kill. They don't even drop loot most of the time, and there's no invincible like Terramorphous or something to look forward to like you have with a game like Borderlands 2. The next question is coming in from Elliot, who writes, Dear Nero, my wife left me. And that's it. That's all they wrote. Well, Elliot, she's better for it because you have an anime profile picture. So she made the right decision. Next question is coming in from Doc Rigamortis, who writes, Dear Nero, do you cook your own meals or do you eat more like frozen foods or frozen meals instead? I don't eat frozen meals. I usually get takeout almost every single day, which you guys would think, wow, Nero must be a blimp. I'm really not. I'm like 6'3", about 215, 220. I'm like a very average build for being a guy at 6'3". But the thing is, I don't typically do like tons of like horrible food that I get from takeout. Again, I'll get like subs, or I'll get like a burrito bowl, for example, again, or you can get like mac and cheese from there and stuff like that. So I get that stuff. It's a bit more expensive, but at the same time, I don't have to cook it, so I'm paying for the convenience, and I enjoy that. But yeah, I don't cook really at all. That's more Courtney's thing. She's a fantastic cook. The next question is coming in from Nas Killer, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think the COD will have another peak again like Warzone / Modern Warfare 2? The potential is there when Microsoft takes over, but I don't think there's going to be a big peak with... I guess there is potential with Modern Warfare 2022 because it's going to be a 2-year game, and with that they can do so much more than they could previously. The question is, will they actually do that? My money's on no, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But there's definitely room for another peak to happen. We've had peaks and valleys, like I said, and hopefully we're heading towards a peak again because I'm tired of this valley. It's horrible. The next question is coming in from Human Tofu, who writes, Dear Nero, how does one rank or review which COD is the best or the quote-unquote worst? Is it down to personal fun factor, objective strong factors like the campaign, multiplayer / extra modes, map design, or progression? That's a weird cutoff to the end of the question, but yes, that's how you rank it right there. You have to factor in all of those things. At the end of the day, there's no such thing as an objectively best game or an objectively best opinion, because games are all very subjective, right? So personal fun factor is a big part of it. But then you have to look at more objective things like how much content is actually in the game, how much is there to grind for in the game, how hard is that grind to actually obtain, what is the online multiplayer experience typically like, are the maps typically more enjoyable, that's subjective obviously, how's weapon balance, are people just using nothing but the MP40 like they were at the start of Vanguard, or is there a wide variety of weapons being used? Like there's a lot of different factors that go into what makes like the best COD or the worst COD, and it's all subjective at the end of the day. But there are games out there like Black Ops 2, which it seems universally the community tend to agree was pretty good. Obviously it had some problems, but it was like, it typically agrees to be pretty good. Black Ops 3 was typically regarded as the best advanced movement game. Lots of people did like Modern Warfare 2019 and did not like Modern Warfare 2019 for various reasons. That's a more controversial pick, right? So it's all subjective at the end of the day. We're just nerds talking about games on the internet. Don't take it too seriously. The next question is coming in from Christian, who writes, Dear Nero, you should play Grand Theft Auto 5 on the channel sometime. I did when it first came out back in 2013. You can look up them old videos. They're not very good. I don't remember what I did or said or anything, but they're there. I'm sure it's changed plenty since way back when, but I just have no real interest in playing. Next question is coming in from creative director. I'm just going to say you're at. It's Lily Starlight, pretty name, who writes, Dear Nero, how are you? I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. Next question is coming in from Kyle, who writes, Dear Nero, do you think Activision should put maybe Raven Software in charge of a brand new Call of Duty sub-series? I think it would be a good idea personally, because I feel Raven have done a great job with Modern Warfare Remastered, and I would like to hear your thoughts on this, and maybe make COD a 4-year life cycle. Should Raven Software get a chance at their own COD? Maybe. People always say like they should let them do it, right? But look at how many problems Warzone has had, and that's like a Raven Software thing. And then they say Modern Warfare Remastered was fantastic. It's like, well, they literally just had to copy someone else's homework and not screw it up too bad. Like it wasn't like they created the game from the ground up and it was all their design. They literally had to copy and paste the stuff in and try to make it as faithful to the original as possible before ruining it with supply drops and DLC weapons. You see what I mean? Like they haven't really proven themselves. They've always been a support studio or a side studio. So what would it be like if they had their own full title? I don't know. Could be good, could be awful, have no idea. Should they get a shot? Sure, I suppose. Why not? I mean, instead of like forcing Treyarch to put out a game every single year, pretty much, it'd be cool if Raven Software would have stepped in every now and then, but apparently they couldn't work well with Sledgehammer Games, which is why we got Black Ops Cold War. The next question is coming in from Insanity, who writes, Dear Nero, what do you think of skill-based matchmaking's trend, and will it die out? I know COD gets all the hate for it, but it's in a lot of games. As an Apex Legends content creator, I have played the game for 2,000 hours, and skill-based matchmaking is just as bad, if not worse, than COD's, but it doesn't get as much hate. So Apex is a newer game. You never really got to experience Apex Legends before skill-based matchmaking. COD, you got to experience it before skill-based matchmaking if you played it way back in the day. But also, a battle royale is a lot different than like team deathmatch, you know. And no one, especially in a game that has a dedicated ranked mode, it's not fun having to like carry your entire team or have the other team be super sweaty using only meta weapons while you're trying to get prone long shots with your light machine gun. You know, you look at the challenges in COD and how they literally don't make any sense. I think Exclusive Ace did a video on this recently, but the challenges for a lot of combos in COD actively make you play in a stupid way on purpose. Like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, yo, long shots with SMGs, go. It's like, SMGs are not long shot weapons. Yo, prone kills with snipers. I mean, I guess that makes sense, but at the same time, it's just really, really shitty we have to do this. You know, the challenges are awful, and then you throw in skill-based matchmaking if you're a good player, so you have to play in that stupid way against people using nothing but STGs and MP40s jump shotting because they think they're going to make $1.50 off their Twitch stream. Like, it's horrible to deal with that. It's awful. It's not fun whatsoever. And we're talking about public match like TDM here. We're not talking about a competitive battle royale. We're not talking about a ranked mode. We're talking about a game with a ranked mode where playing in normal matches feels much more like ranked mode than the actual ranked mode does. So it does suck. Will the trend ever die out? I sure hope it does. You know, Call of Duty keeps like not selling as well as it did way back in the day, and I feel like they have the skill-based matchmaking and all that stuff there because they want like newer people to enter the franchise and have fun with it, but it's obviously not working. The franchise is not doing as well as it was back in the day, and they've been doing this for like 3 years now, and we haven't gone back to like the same peak numbers we had back in like Modern Warfare 2 and stuff. I feel like if anything, they should make the game more like it was back in the day. Sure, some of the casual players will probably leave, but if they're already that casual, they probably weren't going to blow money in the shop anyway. And if anything, Call of Duty's been around for so long that it could bring back those people that quit playing the game 5+ years ago that haven't really thought about COD all that much because they hear it's good like it used to be, right? Is that a perfect solution? No, but does it make sense in my head? Yes, and that's why I said it. So there you guys go. And the next and final question is going to be coming in from someone named Violet, who writes, Dear Nero, do you consider Cold War a decent COD game? Yes, I do. Cold War actually, in terms of gameplay, was very fun. I think the maps were also pretty good. I think that snipers were abysmal, and they should have been nerfed into the freaking ground because they were brokenly overpowered. Screw anyone out there who says, oh, they're the worst statistically snipers in Call of Duty history. Is that why everyone in every lobby uses them? When was the last time you got sniped in Vanguard? No one snipes in Vanguard because it's actually hard to do. Everyone snipes in Cold War because it's very easy to do because there's no flinch and there's no counter to it. It's ridiculous, man. So there were some problems with Cold War for sure. Dark matter sucking is something I remember mentioning in almost every video for half a year. But in terms of gameplay, in terms of maps and weapons and stuff like that, I actually think it was pretty decent. Pretty decent overall. Could have been a lot better should they had more time to actually finish the game and polish it before releasing. But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. There is this week's episode of Dear Nero. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving me a like. Apologies once again for this not going up on Wednesday. Hopefully next week it will go up on Wednesday. We'll have to wait and see. And yeah, hopefully you guys just enjoyed the Black Ops 4 for those of you who watched the gameplay. And for those of you who just had this on in the background, which is 99% of you, hopefully I made your night, your day, your drive, your shift, whatever it is, a little bit better with my background noise. But for right now, guys, that's it. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.